You're listening to Seminary Dropout, episode 39, and I'm your host, Shane Blackshear. This week on the show, we'll interview singer-songwriter Brooke Waggoner about her life, music, and faith. All right, let's go. That's right, friends. It's another episode of Seminary Dropout. This week, Brooke Waggoner stops by. But first, I want to talk a little bit about a blog post that I posted a couple weeks ago now, actually, and it's not a normal blog post. In fact, I really need your participation. I talked about it before, but this is the essential reading list that you are helping us compile. You're going to go and you'll vote. Remember, you can get there by going to shaneblackshear.com/essential reading. And we've got a great list. I think there's about 40 books up there right now that people have thrown into the list. So you can go, if your book is not listed, add it. And this is the deal. This is essential reading for the Christ follower. If you could tell someone, a Christian, maybe a new Christian, maybe not, but tell them to read only 3 books, the most important books that they could read for their life in following Jesus, what would those 3 books be? Now, one hint, I've said this before, if all 3 books were written during your lifetime, you're probably doing it wrong. I can't believe with over 2,000 years of Christianity that the most essential books were written in my lifetime. I just doubt it. In the last 30 years, nope, there's no way, okay? So now, the order, so once you nominate a book, it's in there, and then you can vote on it as well. You put it in there, that just gets it on the list, but also vote it up the list, and you can do that once. Then go through the list, see if you agree or not, and if you feel like there's a book that's too high on the list, vote it down. Maybe you even like it, but it's just too high on the list. It's not that essential. Vote it down. If there's one that's too low, vote it up. I want to spend some time on this. That's why I didn't only talk about this for a week like another blog post and then just move on. I want to keep going back to this one because I really want to cultivate this list. As someday, I'll shut it down where you'll still be able to see the results but not vote on it anymore. But I really want to get this list going and see how it comes out. Now, just today, things have changed. A few hours ago, The Divine Conspiracy by Dallas Willard was number 1. Now it's number 3. After that, Mere Christianity was number 1. Now Mere Christianity is number 4. It's all changed up. So right now, in first place, here it is. Life of the Beloved by Henry Nouwen. Okay, respectable. Number 2, The Ragamuffin Gospel. Listen, I love The Ragamuffin Gospel. I love Brennan Manning very, very much. The book was written in our lifetime. The book was written maybe, 15 years ago, probably, somewhere in there. So, does it belong in the number 2 slot? I don't know. So now, Divine Conspiracy by Dallas Willard, number 3. Again, not written in my lifetime. I'm not that old, but in the last 50 years for sure. Mere Christianity, written, I don't know when Mere Christianity was written, 50s, 60s probably. Okay. Mere Christianity is number 4. I'll just do the top 10 and then I'll stop. Celebration of Discipline, number 5. Love Celebration of Discipline. Number 6, this is interesting. The Naked Anabaptist, The Bare Essentials of Radical Faith. So a lot of you know that this was like I may have ranked this number 1, the best book I read last year. So I love this book. I don't know if it belongs on number 6 of all-time essential reading, and it leads me to believe that this list is very Anabaptist-y. Now, I'm very Anabaptist-y, so I don't mind that so much, but I want to get people from all streams. So, listen, I want everyone to come and to vote, and especially if you are from the Catholic stream, if you're from a stream that's not Anabaptist, I would love to get your take on this as well. All right. Okay. Number 7, On the Incarnation, St. Athanasius. That's number 7. The Cost of Discipleship by Bonhoeffer. Excellent choice. Number 8. Number 9, Surprised by Hope, Rethinking Heaven and Resurrection, and the Mission of the Church. N.T. Wright. Love that book. Either if if The Naked Anabaptist wasn't my number one book last year, then it was Surprised by Hope. I can't remember which one it was, one or two. So I love that. Again, that was just written, or at least just published in the last 3 years. Does it deserve to be number 9? You get the say. Okay, and number 10, this is the last one, Benefit of the Doubt. Benefit of the Doubt, another one, was on my top 10 for last year. I interviewed Greg Boyd about it on Seminary Dropout. Love it. Does it deserve to be number 10 all time? You have the say. So go check it out, shaneblackshear.com/essential reading. And make sure you look over the whole list, because I don't want you to add the book when it's already on there. And so, because then the book won't be ranked as high because it'll be split between your listing and someone else's listing. So check it out. Go rank it. Go vote. I mean, I would challenge you to look at every book, and every book that you've read, is that its proper place on the list, or should it be higher, or should it be lower? So go check that out. Go help that experience. I will tell you, there's a book on the list. So let's see. Let me scroll down here. Okay. If you just add the book and then you vote it up once, which is what I'm asking people to do, there's a book that is the case, and it's ranked number 17 out of 40. Okay. So how's that the case? Because other people have ranked other books down. They've ranked them down. So they've said, no, it doesn't belong here. It belongs further down on the list. So just by voting on it and putting it on the list, it would be ranked right now, at least around number 17 or 18, wherever it falls in. I don't know how they do new books. But anyways, go do that. shaneblackshear.com, essential reading. The next thing I want to talk about is this weekend is the Praxis Conference. I am so excited about this. I told some of you guys a few weeks ago the story where I saw the Praxis Conference online, and man, I just thought that's an amazing conference. I really wish I could go. I'm not able to swing that right now. And then I got offered some free tickets by someone, and I thought, well, yeah, I'm gonna go. So I'm not going just because I got free tickets. I wanted to go anyways. And there's a conference every weekend, but I really wanted to go to this one because the lineup is amazing. I mean, there's I don't know, probably 20 speakers or so. A lot of them that I really want to hear. Jonathan Martin, who's been a Seminary Dropout guest. Sarah Bessey, who's been a Seminary Dropout guest. Brian Zahn, who is going to be a Seminary Dropout guest later this summer. This is stacked. This lineup is amazing. So according to the emails we've been getting, it's going to be kind of like a TED Talk type format. So people coming out and giving keynotes. I just can't wait. I cannot wait. So if you're going to be there, or if you haven't planned on it, but you live near the Tulsa, Oklahoma area, or you have the ability, your lifestyle permits for you to buy a ticket today and fly out there this weekend. Number one, what do you do for a living? But if that's a possibility, hey, do it. Go get a ticket. I think there's some left, so go check it out. Go to this conference if you're able. And for those of you who are already going or going to be there, come find me. Come check me out. I would love to meet you. I love meeting people who actually take the time and listen to this show. It means so much to me. So you can ask my wife. The fans of Seminary Dropout who live near Austin, Texas, they come over to my house. They eat at my table. We actually eat at the couch, but they come over. They hang out. We're friends. They hold my baby. So yeah, I would love to meet you. It'd mean the world to me. So if you're going, come find me. There's probably going to be a lot of people there, but just walk up to the first person with a beard, assume it's me, and then just start talking. Okay, just do that. Okay, that's it. I'm going to move on to this great interview. This guest today, Brooke Waggoner. Brooke is a singer-songwriter out of Nashville. Her music is characterized by beautiful melodies, and her classical training really comes through.
'Cause I want to be seen with a fresh pair of eyes, a single white tree in a black wood of skies. I want to be seen with a fresh pair of eyes. A single white tree in a black wood of the sky. A misguide, a misguide, a misguide.
Brooke Waggoner, thanks for being on the show today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
I want to talk just a little bit about your upbringing. I read in an interview that you, at the time that you went to college, that you had already been writing music for about 10 years at that point. Is that right?
Yes. Yes.
That's crazy. So that would have put you at like, what, 8 or 9 years old already writing music. And you came from a pretty musical family, is that right?
Yeah, I do. It's sort of this, everybody takes piano at some point in their life, within my family on both sides, actually. So everybody can sing and play something loosely. My great-great-grandfather actually was a professional classical pianist in Germany. And during the war, ended up immigrating to States, which is how my mom's side of the family ended up here. But yeah, and then he started a piano tuning company. But nobody, basically since Pop, since him, nobody has done music professionally since then on a performing writing level. So yeah, I have a great support system there. Started learning how to play piano when I was 4. And then, very crude melodies at the age of 9.
Were you writing lyrics at that time as well?
I was very deep, heartfelt 9-year-old. Forlorn lyrics.
Well, I figure you probably have to start shallow no matter what. So it's better to start shallow at 9 years old than at, 21.
That's such a good point. Yeah, I mean, anybody starting out doing that, it's just going to sound bad. You just have to sound bad for a while, and then you find your voice.
Do you have those saved somewhere? Any of the lyrics that you wrote at 9
Oh
years
yeah,
old?
I've kept all of it. I'm a big saver, like this, closet archivist. So I've kept everything. It's just fun, Occasionally I'll tuck around it, and it's just a nice trip down memory lane. So
when you were in college, you were in a college band, if I understand correctly. And then,
I was.
What kind of was that? What kind of music were you playing in that band at that time?
At that time, it was a 4-piece, including myself. I sang all the songs, wrote the majority of what we were working on. I kind of pieced it together. I had already been making these demos and work tapes and solo stuff, but was really stage shy. Didn't want to play shows. Didn't know how to do that alone. So I had some buddies I was already just making music with for fun. So we just sort of pieced it together that way, and they started playing my songs. It was really cool. Gave the whole project a name. We would get a lot of comparisons to kind of like a female-fronted Coldplay or something. So, it was a little bit rock and roll, but not a full-on thrashing. With piano. I'm still playing keys, so kind of had this keen vibe to it.
That's cool. Being compared to Coldplay is not a bad comparison at all.
That's not. And that was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Good time Coldplay. So yeah.
At what point did you feel like this is more than just kind of that music is going to be more for you than it was for your family, kind of a hobby, but it's going to be more of a career? Was that something that, when you were 9 years old writing lyrics and music, was that birthed there, or did that become real later?
Honestly, that dream has been there since the beginning, and I wasn't really sure exactly how it would manifest itself. I think very early on, I thought I would take a more traditional classical path, try to get into some crazy good fine arts program in school, and just, jump into the the crazy obstacle course that is trying to make classical music for a living. So that was very young. And then, when I discovered writing, it was very exciting because suddenly it was a different angle to it all. And my parents early on saw a real love for the craft. So I just feel very fortunate that I had a family who nurtured that. So honestly, that has been the dream in some capacity forever. As you grow older, you kind of decide how it's going to look and your approach. But yeah, it's always been there.
Did you, because you mentioned the classical part, and you're classically trained, and so when did, at some point did that shift from my music career I want to have a music career, and it's going to look like, like you said, going to a fine arts school and going that way, and then when did that shift to, actually being kind of the singer-songwriter artist?
Well, when I was in high school, so yeah, I grew up in South Louisiana. Really basic, humble beginnings, a great family life, but not really sure what college was going to look like. So honestly, fine arts schools were kind of this, just I don't even know how I get there kind of thing. So I always take a little bit more of a practical approach. Just went to a good public university, worked hard to get a scholarship to help out with that, and basically chose something as close as possible to writing in the musical realm. So I went down the orchestration composing path. I think by the time I was 18 and making those decisions, I knew I wasn't going to be able to conquer the stage fright issues that classical piano demands. So I felt pretty confident that I made more sense as a writer, somebody a little bit more behind the scenes. So I knew nothing about orchestration. I was still playing a lot, competing a lot, doing classical piano competitions, all these crazy things that exist, and writing songs for me. So when I got to school, it was definitely an awakening, just this whole other world of an orchestra and learning how to paint with all of those colors. I had a really influential mentor the whole time I was there. He's a pretty famous Greek composer. He's been on the stage for 20 years now, but just taught me a lot about how vast the art of composing is and orchestrating. So at that point, I thought, I think I might do song scoring when I get out of college, like undergrad. I might go and try to make that happen. Because what else are you going to do with that? Like, really, there's a handful of composers that live on commission work, but that's another really difficult field. But an interesting thing was happening in my free time while at school. I was suddenly going to all these shows. You're 18 and you've got friends in bands, and it's this whole grassroots scene. So I just started going out to bars and clubs to hear all these bands play. And that was a pretty big deal for me because I never really had been exposed to that world until college. And then I realized, wow, there's a whole nother angle I could take at performing my music that I didn't really know existed. So that was huge. And that's when I think all of this started to form and how I would make a career out of it.
Well, it seems like that would really give you a leg up in what you're doing now, because, for someone who, like you, kind of, set your sights on the classical world, and you've got this whole knowledge base of the way that works. Whereas I think someone who, it seems to me, and I'm not a musician, so I'm someone from the outside looking in, but it seems to me someone who, maybe from a young age always wanted to be kind of the singer-songwriter type, that at this point they would kind of be lacking in that classical, background, because you incorporate that stuff into your music now. Does that make sense? Do you feel like that's really
I do
come to benefit?
Yeah,
you?
that's absolutely what it is. You're absolutely correct. Yeah, I think suddenly I saw a way to maybe marry some of the world that I've been a part of and that I love, but in a way that made sense for me and how I was going to approach business and a more accessible platform. again, I have this kind of interesting fabric within my family of a real love and appreciation for culture, but we weren't growing up going to, symphony halls and all these incredibly fine art things. So there was always this kind of distance there too, even monetarily. I kind of wondered, I don't even know how to maneuver in that scene,
Yeah.
But I love to play and I love music and these are the skills I have. So suddenly that underworld of the club scene, that felt more accessible to me. Like I could relate to people at the shows a lot faster. But I also still wanted it to be heady and introspective and something that didn't feel flat together. So, that was huge, kind of trying to figure out where I fit in between those two things.
I want to talk a little bit about just the fame aspect of someone in your position, because I've heard, and you've already in the interview right now mentioned that you deal with things like stage fright, and I heard you mention in an interview once that you were kind of shy. I'm just curious how you navigate that in an industry when your chosen profession kind of demands that you be in front of people a lot.
Yeah, that's been really difficult. I feel like an odd mixture of extrovert and introvert. As a kid, I was pretty boisterous. And then, teen years started and I just totally kind of withdrew inside myself. And music became this great sort of tool to express. That has been really hard. However, I've just tried to stay in it. There are times the thought of going on a tour and trying to do this every night for, 500 strangers can be absolutely crippling. But I love music so much, and I feel like it's so important that it is shared. If I can focus on the greater thing that's happening, that's really the only way to get through it. I don't know if that makes sense, but I try to write. I think the way I write sort of, in some strange way, allows me to kind of use the piano as a crutch a little bit. So
Sure.
If I can kind of stay a step ahead as far as like, I don't know if it's smoke and mirrors or a flashy something you weren't expecting as a listener, then I feel like I have this leg up for a second, I can catch my breath. And it's instantly something I feel like I'm not going to just, get crushed under. That was pretty early on. I feel more comfortable now. I feel like I've finally done it enough that I'm understanding the relationship between the performer and the crowd, and how really great that can be, and how if I'm at ease, they're at ease. So I have to kind of dictate that on some level, and that's been a lot of soul searching, but it's so a part of the job that to me, there's really no other way out of that. So.
I had heard you say, and this was a couple of years ago when you said this, but that kind of your fan base, and it seemed you kind of indicated that maybe it was a younger crowd, but had kind of become invasive. And part of that was just the technology that's available to us. And I remember you mentioned that you didn't have a Twitter. And again, this was like a couple of years ago. You have that now. You do have a Twitter now. Do you feel like, is that a product of being able to set more boundaries that enables you to kind of to do those things that you didn't feel comfortable with before, like have a Twitter account?
Yeah, that I just finally kind of bit the bullet. And I'm pretty bad at it. Like that's the thing. I'm not very good at social media. I don't really know how to make that work for me. I know a lot of other artists who just seem to get it, and they're building these monster platforms. And I don't know. I don't know. For me, it's just need to filter everything I'm sharing, or honestly, there's a big part of it where I feel like this is not even interesting. Like I feel maybe pressure to share, but my day-to-day life's not very interesting, and that's my take on it. So I'm pretty bad at it in that regard. But a couple of things happened to me about 2.5 years ago. A lot of my infrastructure changed as far as my business, and who was managing things and taking care of things. So when that change occurred, it was a growing pain for me, but I felt really inclined and inspired to get better at business. I think that's just kind of the wave of the future now. Artists and musicians and anybody who can be creative needs to understand the business of it all. You're working for yourself all the time. So that helps me a lot now with social media, or, if I need to promote something or we have a campaign, I can kind of put on a business hat and separate a little bit from the artist hat. So that's been really good, a new phase for me. I don't know if that answers your question, but
No, on that same note, I heard a comedian was being interviewed one time, and she was saying she was living in Los Angeles, and she was talking about how she really grew weary of living in this culture where as soon as she was introduced to someone, they were immediately looking her over to ascertain whether or not she could further their career or their position in
right.
life. And once they, and her takeaway was once they realized that she couldn't, that they were not interested in spending time with her. Some of the stuff that I hear about that Nashville music scene kind of sounds similar to that. Have you had any kind of experiences like that?
Well, honestly, I have a very special place in my heart for the city. When I moved here, I didn't know anybody. It was literally fresh out of school, just go to the nearest place that you can live and make music. And I had some other cities on that short list, but Nashville was the most affordable. So that's where I ended up. And it's really why I'm getting to do this full time today. I mean, I so credit that to the city. I've never been in a city that took art and creativity and music that serious, which I think is extremely important. You're never going to take yourself serious until you're surrounded by people who are taking that seriously. So that was huge. It's sort of that iron sharpening iron metaphor of you're seeing all these bands like trying the pavement, killing it. You're inspired to do the same. It's a healthy competition. Some people don't do great in that, and other people really flourish. And I feel like it gave me the infrastructure to get to do this full time. So I guess I do see some of that. The whole I don't know. I don't know that I would call Nashville cutthroat in that regard. It's sort of a unique place because it still has a small town feel, and people just love music. Like, they really do. It's odd how much they love it, considering how much they're surrounded by it. So I don't know, but I think too, you start to learn people, and the second I'm catching an air or something like that, I'm out. I don't have patience for people like that, just trying to kind of use someone or work off someone. So I can read it pretty quick and just, okay. But then you find this great group of people who are very genuine.
One of the, not the most, but one of the notable things of your career thus far is that you were a part of the group called the Peacocks, who were one of the backup bands for Jack White.
Right.
How did you get to be a part of Jack White's backup band?
That's still a great question. It was a complete cold call. I had never met him. I'd never even seen him around town, which is strange because we both moved here around the same time. I got a call one day from one of the studio assistants saying, "Hey, can you pop on by? We've got a project we need some keys on." And that's it. It was very non-descriptive. So I went over to Third Man to record and had no idea what we were working on, and then started to kept getting a call back each day and started figuring out this is Jack's first solo record, which is really exciting because I've been a White Stripes fan for a long time. And I don't know, it really is just timing, and I mean, I think I've heard a few different stories about how that came to be, but I think it was another producer here in town. Jack was looking for an all-female band and was needing someone to fill the keys world, so I got a recommendation, and I guess I was being auditioned and didn't even know it, so that was really cool and very unexpected.
Yeah, and so you got to You got to tour with him. You played with him at the Grammys.
Yeah.
Saturday Night Live, I noticed. Um,
Yeah, that was our first show.
oh, really? That was your first show with him? Was
First
Saturday Night
show
Live?
ever.
Wow.
Yeah, it was
That's not
crazy.
intimidating.
Yeah.
You don't get to ramp up slowly when your first gig is on SNL with Jack White. That's pretty cool.
Right? Yeah.
When you write music, what's your process?
Um, it's it's very melody driven. I usually am just tinkering around with the piano and start to form it all there. Um, find some melodies and hooks and things that I really like. I've kind of found there's just some patterns and things I go to on my own that feel very kind of unique to the way that I've always written. It's just this wonderful place to be of suddenly I feel very ageless. I mean, I could literally be 9 years old again. It's a weird kind of, it's just so, I guess it's just so familiar in a really sweet way. It's very home based. Yeah, it always starts with music and then lyrics I take some time with. I'm not as quick, just kind of knowing what I want to say. And it's something I've grown more and more into writing, though. I think early on I found lyrics to be really tedious. I didn't really want to think about it. I didn't feel very good at it. But I've slowly kind of found it's just this other tool that you have to heighten what you're wanting to say and convey. So that takes more time, usually.
Your last album, Originator, it was less pop and a little more alt rock compared to the previous albums that you released.
Mm-hmm.
What made you at that point in time kind of gravitate in that direction?
I had taken a little bit more time off from making a project when I was working on Originator. So there was a chunk of time there in between my Go Easy album and Originator. A lot of life things happened in that span of time, and I think I felt really different writing Originator. I felt older. I felt much more kind of this retrospective way of looking as opposed to early 20s, you've got your whole life ahead of you kind of thing. So, yeah, I don't know. It just felt like a more mature angle, a very natural progression. You know, I don't want to ever make the same record twice. So, yeah, and I wanted to create some new confines. You know, I didn't want to use strings and get really cinematic. I wanted to work with brass and woodwinds more. I hadn't spent as much time with those instruments. Really wanted to do it all on tape as I more and more feel like the performance really shines through if you're getting it right. You just usually get a stronger performance. So yeah, just getting more experimental and I don't know, not really knowing what was going to happen with that record. Honestly, I'm just glad the record was made. There was a season there I wasn't sure how to keep going, you know, just hitting some roadblocks and feeling kind of getting maybe a little too philosophical with it. Like, what's the point? What, you know, what does it, what kind of impact does it have? Is it worth the heartache? You know, so yeah, I think it was a little bit more of a serious record in that way.
Do you still struggle with those thoughts? I mean, obviously the album was made, but just in your creative pursuits from here on out, is that something that's been common throughout your career, or was that a new thing?
That was a newer thing. So I just didn't know what to do with those feelings. It's the first time I can honestly say in my entire life I was just kind of losing a little bit of identity in how I fit into music. So yeah, I mean, that was weird. I didn't know what to do with that. And so it was just sort of, I never wanted to fall victim to paralysis by analysis. And I felt like I was in that place. I didn't know how to get out of that. So, I don't know. That's the best time to make a record, though, I think. You just start making something. You just can't think about that. So if you freak yourself out too much, you know, you limit what could be. Yeah, I feel way much more at peace about that. I'm not worried about those things anymore. I have a good kind of newfound approach on what's happening, and you know, it's just the second you start looking at the rat race around you, it can be very overwhelming. So, I'm just slowly chipping away at it. I just want to keep having freedom to make records that I believe in forever. And that was a big hurdle to get over.
I want to ask about comparisons for someone who's in your position, because the tendency is in the music journalism world to when there's a new artist or an artist who has been slightly under the radar, to make comparisons to other artists, and I'm always been kind of fascinated with that from your point of view. Do you take that as that a complimentary thing, or is that hard when you're trying to, forge your own identity? The nature of, being creative is that you want to do something new.
Mm-hmm. I think it's just human. I have a lot of artist friends who get really upset about things like that. Mm-hmm. And I guess I could see why, but I think the second you put something out like that, it's no longer yours. You have to be willing to let people have opinions, whether good or bad. That's part of sharing, So I feel, for the most part, really fortunate that any sort of press or critical review is, unless it's just sometimes I can tell this is a writer who's kind of being forced to do this, they're not paying attention, and it feels sloppy. But a lot of other times I feel like it's they get it, even if they're trying to make that comparison. I mean, that's what we do, right? We whether or not you want to call it a box, like we have to kind of create a place we feel like everything lives in. So, I mean, I do get that. I think, some of the, like, Regina Spektor comparisons get a little old. Like, oh, we're both female and we play piano. That's about it, So, what are you going to say every dude with a guitar is, like a Jack White? I mean, you just don't do that. So, there are some things that I feel some of that is sort of, I'm pretty hyper aware of my gender when it comes to my instrument. There's a lot of girls out there in music playing piano. So I'm really aware of that with what I'm making, because I just personally don't get into a lot of female piano music. So I try to make something I would want to listen to, hopefully, if I was completely uninvolved. And I never want it to be like a Dear Diary kind of thing. That's just not really for me. It's not the scene I feel like I'm a part of. So, I don't know. I'm going on a tangent here, but all that to say, it's, the critical, whether it's acclaim or upset, it just is what it is.
You mentioned that you don't get into or follow many female piano players. Are you afraid that you're going to be impressionable, or do you not enjoy it?
I think so. Okay. I think that some of the women I've seen who are playing specifically piano, whether it's like a Tori Amos or even a Fiona Apple, the common thread there seems to be kind of this need to be very either incredibly, surprisingly like crass or really dark, which I think is really interesting, because I think in their own way they're trying to also get rid of whatever preconceived confine you may place on someone doing that, playing that instrument, of that sex. But because of that, that's not the angle I've ever really wanted to take. I think they do that so well. Why on earth would I try to kind of mimic that? So my point of view is it's just a different point of view, I do love a lot of piano music, there are a lot of guys I listen to that play piano. But I don't know. I think sometimes lyrically for me, the female writer, I mean, there's some amazing females. I'm a huge St. Vincent fan, Feist, York, even some of the old school jazz singers. There's some incredible things happening. And I find those women really interesting. I feel a real need to kind of, like, they're really trying to challenge themselves. And so in a strange way, you kind of forget what gender this person is. It's not even about that. They're writing something so much greater that you're not even aware, I guess this is a woman's perspective,
We were talking a little bit before the show started about your kind of your faith background, and you mentioned that your father had taught at a seminary. That's something that you don't hide your faith, but it's fascinating for me because I feel like 15, maybe even 10 years ago, it feels like artists, and again, just from the outside looking in, it feels like artists were forced to either kind of choose secular or sacred, if that makes sense. Either if
Hmm.
you were either a Christian music artist or you were not. And if you were, you went with a
Hmm.
Christian label, and I think you had to, insert Jesus's name in your songs at least 5 times or something like that. Um,
Right.
but now it seems like those lines are very, very blurred in the best way possible. Um,
Hmm.
it, ha- are you are you glad to be living in this time where that's possible, or what are your feelings about that?
Yeah, I'm very glad that I have all those options. Um, I think when I was younger, like in high school, I kind of thought about would I ever go the label route. In my mind, I was in that class as well. Kind of thinking I think it's just CCM is the only option. That was what I was exposed to, group in church, um, and yeah, and that's when sort of that underground scene got really interesting to me because I started hearing things, about so and so or like whoever we were into at the time, like, oh yeah, and he's a Christian, like
Yeah.
sort of said in this kind of, isn't this really cool that this person is not going these traditional routes or what seem to be traditional routes, and they're getting to be really expressive. And there was this whole group of people, a generation that I think were craving something, that had to do with faith, but that's very interesting, and not to bash CCM music that's being made. I think there's some amazing people in that world making things that are really important and of value. Um, but I think for me, musically, I knew I was going to be limited. That's just kind of a given. And it just didn't make sense for me. So, yeah, I'm so grateful that that's sort of the beauty of the whole independent movement. You're getting to write your own roles and make it whatever you want it to be. And that's so exciting. Um, it is a little bit sad to me, some of what's happened with, honestly, I think labels getting involved in the Christian music movement really, it's had a lot of negative effects. I feel like there's sort of this constant, let's play catch up to mainstream all the time. What's going on? I find that really upsetting. There's nothing tastemaker in what's being made as far as from these traditional labels. And I mean, it's just about, it's a label, it's a business. So that's really sad to me that I think there is something limiting happening within those confines. But, things are changing every day. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Do you, when you are creating, whether it's you're composing the music or writing your lyrics, do you go on the mood that strikes you? And I'm trying to bring this, I guess, back to faith. Is it if faith is on your mind at the time, does that get interposed into your music, or because I feel when I listen to your music that it's a very natural thing that I don't feel like you are, and you're definitely not, ashamed of your faith, and you're also not even hiding it or running away from it. But at the same time, the lyrics they're complex and they're more real. Does that make sense?
Hmm. Thank you. That's a huge compliment. That's definitely what you know uh, what I'm trying to make. I think I value the power of music so much that I would never want to misuse such an opportunity, to be who I am and I mean, I'm a Christian, so like you said, I don't want to run away from that. My hope is that anything I'm working on or doing in any job, any setting, I want that to touch what I'm doing and infuse what I'm doing. So, yeah, so that's definitely and hopefully continues to be a very natural thread. There's something so divine in that process. You feel there's this moment of purity that it's tangible. And that's so thrilling to me of striving for something like that and knowing it'll never be that because of our scenario, because of sin, of things that are touching everything we're making. But I do feel uh, that is a very close tie with things I'm either feeling compelled to say or a real chance to talk about something that I could never just go up to a stranger in a bar and say, hey, I want to talk to you about my face.
Right.
That's the most off-putting thing I could ever imagine. But with music, I get to perform some songs. They start to feel like they know me. We get to tear a few walls down instantly and have a real conversation afterwards with total strangers. I mean, that's kind of remarkable.
Do you feel like being a Jesus follower is that a net win? Is that beneficial to your career, or is that detrimental to your career, or do you feel like it's neutral? Because I think that there are definitely people who have absolutely, and if it's, I'm not going to say whether it's in a bad way or not, but absolutely benefited. Their careers have benefited by flying the flag of Christianity, because you get that church market in there, and that's a lot of that's money.
It's a lot of money, yeah.
But I feel like there's probably going to be a time in the future, if it's not now, where that could be a detriment. Do you feel like it's either of those for you, or has been for you in your career?
I personally don't. Again, I live in Nashville, so I do have a lot of friends, and I've seen a lot of positive and negative come from that within their careers. But I feel very fortunate that early on, I think I was given exposure to some different sides of things in formative years, to kind of get a chance to sort of say early on, okay, I'm not going to go that traditional route. And to be completely honest with you, and this is my artist hat, not my business hat, but to be completely honest with you, it's not about money. Yes, I have to earn a living and continue to fund what I'm making, but what I'm making is so much more important to me than that. And I'm grateful that I can say that, because I know that there are seasons, and this job is hard, and that can sort of flip on itself quickly. But currently, where I am right now, I can honestly say that I feel I earn a very modest living. I feel like the Lord's taking care of me, and providing opportunity for me to share what's being made. And that's it. I mean, that's the dream. That's my dream, at least. Having a place to share what I make. That's really all I'm able to look at. So maybe I am pretty bad in business when it comes to kind of deciding, well, maybe there's a genre out there that you can tap into more. But I've never been an incredibly aggressive marketer, so I want it to be a really organic experience. I want the listener to feel like they stumbled upon it. They're experiencing it completely unbiased, without outward opinion. If they love it, they stick around. If they don't, they move on. That's it. So, I guess I feel really fortunate in that it hasn't like overtly hurt my career or propelled it either, my faith. So, and that helps me. That helps me keep a clear head about what I'm making.
What's your day-to-day like now? Are you working on a new album, or what's next for you?
I am writing a lot this year. It's actually been a crazy January. I have a lot of different hats that I wear. I've been doing some producing and a lot of orchestrating for some other projects coming up, some TV-related projects, and I've been making some videos and writing with some other friends, doing some collaboration work. And then I've got some spring coming up in the spring. I'm heading to China this summer. I just signed a record deal with a Beijing-based label. There's all kinds of different little things coming on the pipeline. But the day-to-day changes. It's kind of more a week-to-week thing. What's this week like? I'm traveling the next week. But I'm really trying to carve out time this year to write and to play.
Well, that's really cool. I'm excited to see what comes out of that.
Yeah.
Brooke, on the show, I interview a lot of theologians and authors, and I love those people. But it's been such a treat to interview you today, and I feel like it's been one of the most fascinating interviews for me, but just like I said, being on the outside looking in. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Absolutely, Shane. Thank you. It's been my pleasure.
tea, 2 sugars, milk and honey, please, Sir Windsor. Drink his cup like this most every day.
Thanks so much to Brooke for being on the show. I had an amazing time talking with her. She's so cool. Her music's so great. Remember, you can find links to her on the show notes for this show. You can go to shaneblackshear.com/Brooke. And I'll also have some links to her albums and stuff like that. So remember, there are ways that you can support this show. You can go to seminarydropout.com, click on support, and donate however much you think is appropriate. Or you can go to iTunes, subscribe. If you've been listening lately, you know my big message is subscribe. That is a tongue twister. And then rate and review. Speaking of which, I need to thank Brandon Morrow. Brandon, always good to talk with you on Twitter, online. See you. Thank you for your review on iTunes. I really appreciate that. Mitch Rausch. Mitch, wow, what a humbling review of Seminary Dropout. Thank you so much, friend, for that. I appreciate it. Paul Irby 91, thank you. And Campbellville 31, who I have a feeling is my good friend Zach Campbell. So Zach, if that's you, thank you. And if it's not you, Campbellville 31, thank you. So please remember, go rate, review. That will keep Seminary Dropout front and center on iTunes and will help the show grow. All right, friends, make sure you check out the show notes for this show. It's shaneblackshear.com/Brooke, and go check out Brooke. That's it. I will see you next week. Please join us, friends, next week for another great installment, I hope. No, of course, it will be, of Seminary Dropout. All right, take care.